everybody. Welcome back. This is Jenny from Homeschool Teens with Jenny, and I will go ahead and apologize for the glasses glare. It is what it is. I literally have gotten to the point that I cannot see without them, and I'd rather see you if you could possibly deal with the glare with me. Thanks for joining me again. I was with you guys on an update for American literature at our 12-week mark, and we have already completed first semester and we're 2 weeks into second semester, and I realized I haven't done an update in a while. So I wanted you guys to kind of see where we're at, what kind of literature we've covered with Sonlight American Lit. And basically it spans from October through mid-January. So I'm going to kind of show you what we read, what we skipped, what my son thought about it, and hopefully this will be helpful for you. If you haven't seen the first 12-week review, I'll put it in the cards above for you guys so that you can click and watch that one first. That will only cover the literature that we did during the first 12 weeks of school, and this is going to cover the second half of the semester into the second semester. So we started out with the Scarlet Letter. This book was a lot longer than I remembered it being, and the vocabulary was a lot more difficult than I remembered it being in high school. But it's been a while, so I just have forgotten. But it took a while to get through this one, and you really just had to sometimes overlook the vocabulary to just keep up with the storyline. That is one of the suggestions in the teacher and student guides that the writer of Sonlight had given us, and it worked very well to do that. It just kept it moving along and not getting stuck on every word that we didn't know the meaning of. So that was the first one. Then we went into a short story unit, and it started with this book, The Best Short Stories of O. Henry. And I picked two out of this book for my son to read. The first one was The Gift of the Magi, and the second one was The Ransom of Red Chief. So those are the two short stories he read out of here. We skipped this one. This was Teaching a Stone to Talk by Ann Dillard. It's definitely a contemporary piece. It wasn't something my son was super interested in, and we knew because the course came with 25 books, there was going to have to be some give and take on things that we did skip. So this was one of those. The next story that was in line was My Antonia. We also skipped this one. And after O. Henry, I'm sorry, I didn't have a book. It was actually just included in the guide, but we read the short story called The Open Boat as well. So that kind of ended that. Then they wanted us to go into My Antonia, which I think was more of a romance. And basically it was between My Antonia and Jacob Have I Loved. And so I chose Jacob Have I Loved because of the storyline. I really thought my son was going to like this one, at least by the end, when he got kind of the overall message. But he said this was really feminine and he didn't enjoy it, and he just read it because I told him to. So this was not a favorite by any means. After that, we've been doing IEW's Structure and Style Level C, just year one. And my son has really enjoyed that. We dropped the composition for Sonlight American Literature because it was too open-ended, and it just left him feeling really anxious, and he was just kind of beside himself on where do I start? How am I going to structure this? Why don't I know this? I should know this. And so he really just wanted more structure. And so that's why we switched to IEW. He has done so well with that. So we are not doing the composition component for Sonlight anymore. But in IEW, the next lesson he was going to be doing over Christmas break into the first of the year was Tom Sawyer. So I pulled this early. This was not included in the Sonlight American Literature. But because it was in IEW, and Sonlight American Literature does include Mark Twain, I went ahead and pulled this for him to read. So we took a pause on American Lit, the Sonlight course, and even though this is American Lit, and I let my son start with this one so that when he got back from vacation for Christmas, he would be able to do the IEW unit. I didn't want to ruin the story and start that unit before he read the book. I felt like there was going to be a summary of the book and it might have spoilers. So he went ahead and read this over Christmas vacation. And then when we came back, he was able to do the IEW unit. Right now, he's currently reading Brave Companions. So this is what started our second semester with Sonlight American Lit. This is basically history essays. So it's called Portraits in History, as you can see here at the bottom. They do not assign every essay that David McCullough wrote because of just the time of the course. Some of his essays are quite long, and so they picked I think there was 4 they picked. And so Jack has gotten through half and he has just a couple more to read. And he said he really is enjoying this book. He's also a history buff, so I think that probably is why. And he did mention to me that there are some essays in here that are not about Americans. So maybe that's why they also picked, but how they determined which ones they picked and which ones they didn't. But he is really enjoying this book quite a bit. The book after that that's scheduled, or the play, is Death of a Salesman. And we have already done Our Town, so we chose to skip this one so that we can keep moving forward. And the next one scheduled is Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Now, I don't know why. I mean, it's pretty, and it's the anniversary version, but y'all, do you see the thickness of this thing? It was so intimidating, and I picked it up and I'm like, surely it's not really that long, or else the font has to be like 50. Like, why does it need to be this big? The reason is there's a ton of extras in here. The story starts at the green tab and ends at the red tab. And there's just a lot of other extras included, so it seems really big. But when I showed my son exactly where the story was in the book, so let me kind of take it out for you so that you can see. It's really only that thick for the story. And so he was like, okay, that's manageable. But when he first looked at it, he's like, you do not expect me to read that, do you? I mean, it looks like Uncle Tom's Cabin, doesn't it? So anyway, this will be the next one coming up. And because he's already read Tom Sawyer, it kind of goes into Huckleberry Finn. So I think he really loved Tom Sawyer and Mark Twain's writing. And so I think he will also enjoy this one. So that's kind of what's coming down the pipeline next. So overall, we had started using all the resources. So there's a lot of extras that are scheduled in addition to the main literature you're reading. Elements of Style is one. How to Read a Book talks about how to approach different genres of books. There's one called On Writing Well, which talks about writing different types of genres as well. And that goes along with the composition aspect. And then there's a poetry book. It's very thin. It's a Dover thrift book. And I think it's called The 100 Best Poems or something like that. We have deleted all of those extras. We're kind of just immersing ourselves in the book, in the main book that was scheduled. How I assign it, I break it down, and sometimes I go by time and sometimes I go by page numbers. But some of these reads can last up to an hour and a half a day. One of the reads in Brave Companions, my son read for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I said, okay, you have other subjects too. And I know I assigned that, but I didn't realize it was going to take that long. And he's a fast reader, so I was really surprised. And I said, let's leave it at 45 minutes. And when you've read for 45 minutes, you stop. Tell me where you left off, and I'll adjust it in the schedule. And so that's kind of how we've done it, because he's doing other subjects, chemistry and algebra 2 and American history, and those are just as important as American literature. So I try to make sure all the core that they spend between 45 minutes to an hour a day. So you can do it by pages, you can do it by time, or you can do both. I just put it in there how Sonlight has scheduled it. And I kind of just remind him every once in a while, make sure you're just spending 45 minutes. Or if you only have a few pages left, go ahead and finish it out. but don't spend 2.5 hours on your reading assignment for one school day. So that is something we've kind of run into. So we're just sticking to the main American literature assigned reading. And all of those extras that included have value and they're great books. And he has read bits and pieces of them. But because of the weight of all the other courses he's taking, he also has electives I didn't mention. And he's learning how to drive and all of these things that our older teens are learning how to do. I just had to make sure that we were kind of condensing the time so we didn't end up doing school till like 7 o'clock at night. So that's kind of the review over Sonlight American Lit and how it's been going. There's been books he's loved, there's been books he's severely disliked, but it's exposed him to a lot of different things, a lot of different genres that he wouldn't have picked up and read on his own. If I had to do it all over again, I would totally do it. And we've had a good experience through first semester. So I'll make sure I check back in with you guys in a couple more months and let you know how it's going. And I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.